Sheer rock faces all around, so high you could barely see their tops, even craning your neck. Up here the air felt crisp and cold. The rock wall fell away on their right, disclosing a slash valley lined in dark green with Rocky Mountain pine and spruce. The pines fell away to gray cliffs of rock that dropped for hundreds of feet before smoothing out. She saw a waterfall spilling over one of them, the early afternoon sun sparkling in it like a golden fish snared in a blue net. They were beautiful mountains, but they were hard. The mountains did not forgive many mistakes. The Shining, published by Doubleday Press in 1977, was King's first hardback bestseller. Set in the Rocky Mountains just outside Boulder, Colorado, as opposed to King's usual Maine setting, The Shining, as a novel, is much different from the film directed by Stanley Kubrick, made 3 years after the publication of the King manuscript. For modern readers, even those who have not seen the film, it is hard to divorce the image of Jack Nicholson from his like-named counterpart, Jack Torrance. Here's Johnny. The story itself is roughly similar. A family agrees to assume the role of winter caretakers for the Overlook Hotel, an isolated resort high in the Rockies, cut off from the world by a winding stretch of road called Sidewinder that cannot be effectively plowed during the harsh Colorado winters. The family is warned that a former winter caretaker, a Mr. Delbert Grady, went mad during his tenancy, murdering his family in the most violent of ways. It is claimed that he suffered from what the old-timers called cabin fever. However, as the narrative progresses, it is discovered that it is in fact a supernatural influence from without, more so than an internal malevolence that corrupts all those who enter the Overlook. Indeed, the characters of King's novel are far more complex than those of their one-dimensional counterparts in the film. Using an omniscient point of view, King allows readers to get inside the heads of the Torrance family in a way that a film could never do. As a result, we come to understand their thoughts, their motivations, their hopes, their fears, and their regrets, as these characters navigate the labyrinthine corridors of the Overlook Hotel. Unable to logically comprehend a location divorced from linear time, by a winding icy road, the family are slowly driven insane in much the same way as Shirley Jackson's Eleanor in The Haunting of Hill House, a novel that we discussed in an earlier Reading America, and that itself was an inspiration for Stephen King. Well, I won't give away the ending, but it will be a surprise for those who have come to The Shining through the film. This conclusion, if not wholly vindicating certain characters, certainly paints them in a slightly more sympathetic shade of gray. Although a runaway success, the novel is nonetheless controversial due to its subject matter of madness, alcoholism, and child abuse. For these themes, it was banned contemporaneously from school libraries and likewise indicted by parents for its degradation of the American family. Readers and reviewers indeed criticized the purely evil Torrance and questioned why King felt compelled to offer such a troubled character as the novel's protagonist. While famous for statements suggesting that he just writes his stories without stopping to analyze them, King nonetheless comments that Jack was tormented by his father and perpetuated this fatal flaw to his own child as though through a vicious circle of violence and guilt. King states, quote, "People ask if the book is a ghost story or if it is just in this guy's mind. Of course it's a ghost story, because Jack himself is a haunted house." End quote. The New York Times, in a review published at the time of the book's initial publication, follows King's own conceptualization of the narrative. In a pan of The Shining, Richard L. Lingerman writes of a novel that he considers to be an overbearing and confused Grand Guignol room service. Quote, "It's a pity because King's sheer rookie's energy is engaging, And in the relationship of Jack and Wendy, there is a core of psychological truth that might have been crafted into a subtle psychological chiller. For the horror, dear Butis, lies within us, not in our ghouls. But why not make up your own mind by checking out The Shining from the American Library today? Just in time for Halloween.